All right, guys. So I'm out here today, dicking around with these fans, and what I'm realizing is that my alternator is not keeping up very well. So I'm going to end up taking the electric fans off, just setting my wires aside, keeping them, and then for now I'm going to stick the mechanical fan on there, and I have a shroud that I kind of have to make work because if you guys remember, I cut up part of the original shroud to hold the radiator in place as we did electric fans. And the reason for this is I think my alternator is not keeping up with the draw. It runs fine with one fan, but even with one fan, when I did my my little test here, is if it's at night and I have the lights on and I have the blinker on and I'm on the brakes, voltage starts to steadily drop, 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 drop. Under normal circumstances, it goes up past 13, it's charging fine. If I run both fans, the voltage steadily drops until it plateaus somewhere in between the 9 and 10 volt range, which is not enough. This thing runs pretty rough. Radio starts doing weird things. My tach starts doing weird things. So for now, I'm going to stick the mechanical fan on there, which I know works. And that's what I'm going to do for now. Because ultimately, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to say, fuck these fans. I'm going to buy the same fans that are on the Cutlass, which these are out of a 94 to 95 9C1 Caprice. And they work really good. They're nice little units. And then I'll go from there to make my own, mounts and stuff like I did on these. These are not shrouded, but they work really, really well either way. The fan itself has the ring on the fans, and then it's got this ridge all the way across, which kind of acts like a shroud to direct the air, so the fan isn't just whirling it around. But either way, I'm going to get to it and yank this shit off, and then, as you see, I sent my wheels and tires to the alignment shop that does our alignments for us at the body shop I work for, and he's going to take care of mounting and balancing my wheels, or tires I should say. So, yeah. So, I'm going to go back to the mechanical because I really want to drive the car on Thursday. We're going to go out to a cruise night. And from there, I'm going to end up buying a new alternator when the money allows, which I'm going to go with a good Power Master unit, just like what I have on the olds. And this made a big difference for me because I started to have issues as soon as I started running more auxiliary stuff. So this one came through, and I actually think the one that's in here is the one out of my Cutlass. I don't know if this is the one. I think this is actually the one out of my Cutlass. So that's why I ended up buying that, because I don't think this one was keeping up, but I forget. I've done and swapped so many fucking things. So I'm going to do a new alternator, which if I remembered right, the Power Master one is about 110, 120 bucks, and they are local to us. I can go directly to them and pick it up. And then the fan module for the 95, 96 Impala is that it's like 100 bucks. So cheap insurance to have those two components new. We've done a bunch of work. At this point, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to the mechanical for now, and then we'll follow it up later. But before I do any of that, I would like to load test these fans because they do work, but I am just curious to see what they're actually doing under load. So I do plan on doing a load test on them to show you guys what's going on. So I plan on eventually doing that. But for now, we're going back to mechanical. All right, guys, fixed is fixed. Now check this out. So I cut up some sheet metal because I always have sheet metal handy. And you can see I'm using my handy dandy long reach 4-inch cutoff wheel, which I love. So this actually looks like there was some thought put into it, but by all means this is not correct, but it works. The shroud is actually definitely working. Part of that is probably because of, I don't know, sheer luck. It does have some movement to it, but it takes a lot to hit the fan. So I got like more than a finger's length here, so if this thing shakes more than that, then I have bigger problems. But for now, this is good for a temporary shroud until we have some more time to pursue this a little bit better, because I want to take this car out Thursday night. There's a local cruise night I've been really wanting to go to, and this car needs to get driven. It drives awesome. So the whole concept here will be that this will be fine. I fired it up. Everything clears. Nothing hits. Although this looks like it would hit, it actually doesn't. It's actually not nearly as high as the shroud, and it's actually under the like imaginary line of the fenders. So, and the hood bows up in the center. You could see that. You could see that bump in there. That's designed to clear the shroud. So we are literally like right within the realm of like where everything is supposed to be. So I made that Z plate to hold that up, and it's enough shrouding to hold it back. Now, when I was on my Cutlass, I used to run a half shroud because the core support sagged and it would hit in like random areas. So I, instead of like trying to raise it up like an idiot, I cut the shroud in half and shimmed it up. Problem solved, right? So I know that a half shroud will at least work. And you got to keep in mind that cars from the 60s, 50s all had like crappy half shrouds or just barely anything. So this should be enough for this engine. And this thing does pull quite a bit of air. Like standing next to the car, like when I open the door, I can feel the fan pulling. So it's definitely working. And I think for now, this is definitely a fix, even though it's temporary. Actually, it looks cool. But before we go out, I'm going to put a little note on this piece that I painted like gunmetal gray just temporarily. You know, I'm going to put on there, this is what happens because of poor planning. Everything else looks great, and then you get this abomination. But you know what? It needs to get driven. At this point, this is a means to an end. I think those fans are good. I think the first thing I'm going to do is get an alternator, and hindsight's 20/20, guys, all right? Because I could have just taken the alternator from the Cutlass and put it on here. But that is way too much fuckery, to be honest with you. I think I'm just going to get a new alternator, try those fans again, and see how it reacts. I mean, the car is very happy now with the brakes on, the lights on, the radio on, the signal on. The voltage bounces a little bit on the gauge, but it's not by much. It's just like 1 or 2 volts. With the fans on, this thing ate up quite a bit of juice. So, yeah. So hopefully get a new alternator soon, put that in there. But for now, this is our analog electric fan. It works. It actually doesn't look too bad if you don't look at it too long. So it actually kind of looks like I put some thought into it. You know, only took me about an hour. I mean, it took me longer than an hour to come up with everything. I had to cut the shroud, bend the sheet metal, but like to come up with the bends and everything, I had to use my bench vise to fold it, which is a little tricky. I actually got a nice and neat fold out of both ends. Not exactly straight, but pretty damn close. You could see it goes up right there and then down, but good enough to get the job done. So for now, I'm very happy. Hopefully, I'll probably drive it tomorrow. I'm doing some work at my buddy's place on his car, and it's kind of it's a nice little like 10-15 minute drive just to see how it does, make sure that it doesn't hit on bumps or anything, because the drive that we're taking on Thursday is a good 15-20 mile drive. It's not a lot, but it's a drive. It's going to be warm. It's going to be in the low 80s, and I would love to take the Olds, but I drove the Olds a lot over the winter and fall and spring. This thing sat a lot. This thing needs to get driven after all that work. It's kind of a shame that we've only literally driven it twice. So guys, fixed is fixed, I guess, for now. So I'm going to sign off, and as always, share, like, subscribe, follow my saga of bullshit. Doesn't always work out as well as we'd like it to. But this is a good means to an end, right? It's not a complete fail. I always disconnect my batteries at night. Never trust any wiring on old cars. There we go. So it's a little tough to close, but actually, yeah. I usually don't close this hood overnight at all. God, you can see the color match. We painted this hood like 7 years after that. I tried to get it close, but no dice. So, yep, I'll pick up. I'm done.